I don't really know how to start this video. I'm going to be looking through the Goodreads account of the suspect in the shooting of the United Healthcare CEO. And if you're just as curious as I am, just keep on watching. Okay, yes, hi. I'm recording this video on December 10th of 2024. So if there's been any new information coming out since then and that this video is not updated, I am sorry. If anything significant happens, I will leave that in the comments down below at a future date. So I'm just going to be sharing the news that we have so far. A few days ago, they arrested a man in Pennsylvania who they think is responsible for the shooting of the United Healthcare CEO in New York City. If you guys don't know what happened, because you're not watching the news, I don't know. Someone shot the CEO of United Healthcare on his way to work in broad daylight. They did this in complete public view. The gun had a silencer on it. The United Healthcare CEO passed away from this. People were literally like walking over him to get into their work meetings, which is like actually very morbid. But yeah, so the shooter got away and has remained undetected for quite some time. The New York Police Department offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to the capture of whoever did this. On the bullets that were used in this attack, they had the words deny, defend, depose written on them. New stuff has come out. I haven't seen everything verified. I've just been seeing people post stuff online. I'm going to be listing a bunch of articles I'm using for a reference for this particular video, but some of the details that have also come to light is that like whoever did this had like one outfit on, covered his face completely, and then fled the scene and then changed outfits. And then at one point in time, somebody found their backpack, which was full of Monopoly money. There's different photos of this guy at different angles. So it's a little unsure of who exactly it is, but police say that they found who they deem to be a suspect, and I think they have officially charged him with the murder and on top of other crimes on top of that, but we'll get into that. So that is kind of like what has happened recently. If you have been online, then you know that people are really thirsting after this guy because they found a picture of him with the mask pulled down and he's got a nice smile because he was like flirting with somebody and they asked to see his smile, and then that's how people got a picture of his face. But people have been praising this guy and this guy's actions online. I've also seen some other people be like, oh no, a person died. I've seen other people kind of take this a different stance and be like, oh look, class consciousness is happening, and we're realizing that these CEOs of these horrible companies, especially insurance companies, don't really care about us and have actively contributed to the harm of millions of Americans, and we really maybe aren't feeling very empathetic to this person right now. I find myself in the latter camp. I am not someone who particularly condones violence, but if you asked me if I cared about the guy who got shot, I'd probably say not really. But that's just my opinion. That's how things go for me. Anyway, I wanted to make this video because I'm interested in casually I watch like a lot of true crime videos, and I don't want to make true crime content on here. That's not my bread and butter, but I do a lot of book content. And I think examining, because it's come out that this guy had a Goodreads account and you got to see everything he read on there, I thought it might be interesting to explore now that we have a suspect, and just with the narrative like whimsy this guy has been kind of indulging in. People are kind of leaning toward it, but people also I've seen are dubious that this is the actual killer because they claim that the suspect, Luigi Mangione, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, let me know. But Luigi Mangione is the person who was detained, or the person who is the current suspect. Some people online are not thinking that this guy is the actual killer just because he has a different skin undertones and his eyebrows look a little bit different. I mean, I don't really know what to say to that because people can look different in all sorts of different lighting. Right now, there's all this internet content coming out about this guy, and it's very clear that Luigi has been radicalized recently based on his own severe injuries. So people are kind of putting two to two together as like, well, it would make sense if this person is the one who committed this attack. So that's kind of like where we are right now. So yeah, just a little bit more about Luigi. Luigi is originally from Townsend, Maryland. Sorry, I have my computer out and I'm trying to read. I'm not wearing my glasses right now because I look better without glasses in videos. But anyway, so I'm just trying to read. Plus, I don't like the reflection light that gets on the glasses. It's not cute. So anyway, more about Luigi. He's 26 years old from Townsend, Maryland. He was arrested Monday in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was charged with 2 felonies and 3 misdemeanors before prosecutors filed a murder charge in New York later that night in connection with the Thompson killing. Mangione was tracked down in a McDonald's restaurant in Altoona, Pennsylvania, carrying multiple fake IDs, including one with the name Mark Rosario. According to 2 senior law enforcement officials, a restaurant employee recognized him and called local police. New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said at the news conference. In Pennsylvania, he was charged with carrying firearms without a license, forgery, tampering with records or identification, possessing instruments of crime, and providing false identification to police. Hours later, authorities in New York charged him with 1 count of murder, 3 counts of criminal possession of a weapon, and 1 count of possession of a forged instrument, according to online court documents. Also, when he was detained, investigators uncovered a 3-page handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset, Tish said. So this is like what they're claiming to be his like manifesto or whatever. Luigi also carried a ghost gun, which can be assembled at home and be difficult to trace. As of right now, the information we're getting from Altoona is that the gun appears to be a ghost gun and may have been made on a 3D printer capable of firing a 9mm round. I've also seen something online, and I cannot confirm this. This could be just a rumor, but I literally saw a reel today talking about how the ghost gun he crafted, was a similar gun used to kill pigs. I don't know if the internet is just running wild with that or if this symbolism actually took place. I don't know, but that's interesting. We might have to fact check that small detail. Luigi graduated from the University of Pennsylvania in 2020 with an undergraduate degree in computer science and a minor in mathematics, while simultaneously earning a graduate degree in computer and information science, a spokesperson from the university confirmed. In 2016, he graduated from Gilman School, an all-male high school in Baltimore, and I believe he was also the valedictorian of that high school. Okay, so now that we know everything that we know about this suspect, I'm just going to go in and look at his Goodreads page. If you try to look it up yourself right now on Goodreads, it's been taken down. I found this thanks to, I think, People Magazine's article, and they had a link to the page through the Wayback Machine, and that's how we can see what his Goodreads looked like. From that point in time, I've also seen other people make TikToks about this, but they also cite some of his favorite books in different articles, and each article references a different book. So I'm just going to read all those to you right now so we can get a better picture of like the mental state of this person if they really did carry out this crime. So I'm looking at Luigi Mangione's profile right now, and I will have screenshots of it next to me so that you guys can see it too. Again, I'll try to put links to everything in the description of this video. It looks like he gave 52 ratings, which is an average of a 4.2 rating, 13 written reviews, and then there is his favorite shelves with a bunch of different books on there. It looks like he was really into what you would think a man in his 20s would read. So I'm just going to start with that. The books he was currently reading were, I guess, The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, How to Change Your Mind, The New Science of Psychedelics, The Omnivore's Dilemma, A Natural History of 4 Meals. So yeah, this guy was like super into fitness. If you couldn't tell, people have been posting his thirst trap pic from his Twitter account, I believe, all over online. So that's what that looks like. If we scroll down, there's also a want to read for life in the Lindy Effect. And then I'm going to read some of the quotes he liked because I think that could really, again, help us understand this dude. So I'm just going to read some of these quotes. America is the wealthiest nation on earth, but its people are mainly poor, and poor Americans are urged to hate themselves. To quote the American humorist Kid Hubbard, it ain't no disgrace to be poor, but it might as well be. It is in fact a crime for an American to be poor, even though America is a nation of poor. Every other nation has folk tradition of men who were poor but extremely wise and virtuous, and therefore more estimable than anyone with power or gold. No such tales are told by the American poor. They mock themselves and glorify their betters. The meanest eating or drinking establishment, owned by a man who is himself poor is very likely to have a sign on its wall asking this cruel question: if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? There will also be an American flag, no longer than a child's hand glued to a lollipop stick and flying from the cash register. This continues on, but I'm just going to stop there and I'm going to go to the next one. This is a quote from Tim Urban, and I believe he is more of a right-wing social media type person. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But this is a quote from him. I've heard people compare knowledge of a topic to a tree. If you don't fully get it, it's like a tree in your head with no trunk. And without a trunk, when you learn something new about a topic, a new branch of a tree or leaf of if you learn something new about the topic, a new branch or leaf of the tree, there's nothing for it to hang on to, so it just falls away. By clearing out the fog all the way to the bottom, I build a tree trunk in my head, and from then on, all new information can hold on, which makes the topic forever more interesting and productive to learn about. And what I usually find is that so many of the topics I've pegged as boring in my head are actually just foggy to me, like watching episode 17 of a great show, which would be boring if you didn't have a tree trunk of the backstory and characters in place. I don't know why this particularly stood out to him, but okay. On his wants to read, he has Atlas Shrugged. Now, this book, every time I see it, I'm like, ugh. Not just because of its political meanings, but the fact that like my grandparents got me this book to read when I was in third grade because they thought I was intelligent, and because I was intelligent, apparently that meant I had to read things that were way beyond my grade level, and as a pseudo form of indoctrination to make sure that I turned out the way they wanted me to be, a whole other thing. But yes, I started reading Atlas Shrugged in like third grade, got halfway through it, read through sex scenes where I didn't even have the full understanding of what sex was yet. Yeah, and I think I stopped about halfway through, and I have never picked that thing up since. I just don't want anything to do with Atlas Shrugged. So seeing it on this list was like a jump scare to me. Oh my gosh. He also wants to read American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer, Infinite Jest, The Great Conversation, Volume 1, Socrates through Descartes. So we have someone who's interested in philosophy too, I guess. Our Final Hour, A Scientist's Warning, How Terror, Error, and Environmental Disaster Threaten Humankind's Future this century on Earth and beyond. And then what people have really latched onto, I think a lot of the news outlets have, is his 4-star rating of Industrial Society and Its Future by Theodore John Kaczynski. If you don't know who that is, you probably know him better as the Unabomber. And the Unabomber. So this guy, again, if you don't know, I'm just going to give a really quick summary. This guy was a bit of a domestic terrorist who was formerly a mathematics professor. He ended up skipping a bunch of grades because he was like a math prodigy and got into Harvard and at 15, and then like graduated with like a lower grade point average, but he still got into the University of Michigan for his master's degree and PhD in math, and they let him teach there. He wanted to go to like Berkeley and the University of Chicago. He's originally from Chicago. But they wouldn't give him any sort of scholarship or teaching opportunity. So he took, I believe, the University of Michigan instead. If I'm wrong on that, I know he was in Michigan. So he was teaching for a while, and then some stuff happened, and he decided to live off the grid and be a total like cabin in the woods type guy with no electricity or anything like that. But then he always had this really bad, like antisocial, not bad, I shouldn't say that, but he had a very antisocial personality throughout his entire life. But that kind of manifested once he was alone. And then he started worrying about, I believe, environmental issues. And he would start mailing bombs to people who he thought were people who were perpetuating the destruction of the environment. I don't know. But the problem is too is that he sent some to a couple of companies, sure, but he sent a lot of bombs to like different universities, and most notably Berkeley and Chicago. So let's take that with a grain of salt about his validity in eco-terrorism. I think that's just my opinion. I shouldn't inflate my opinions in here, but I did. So there's that. Luigi, some people think he was inspired by the Unabomber, and I could read his full review of it in just a second if you guys like. Okay, so Luigi says, he was a violent individual, rightfully imprisoned, who maimed innocent people, the young suspect wrote in his interview of the famous document. While these actions tend to be characterized as those as a crazy, Luddite. I don't know that word. I will look that up and put the definition on here. However, they are more accurately seen as those of extreme political revolutionary. I should also mention that the Unabomber was also like against leftist ideas, which I found interesting because I think if you read through like Luigi's reading list, he definitely has some more conservative figures on there. And apparently, according to his Twitter account too, he retweeted a bunch of anti-woke stuff and was pretty anti-left as well. So I think these guys would get along ideology wise. It just this his if he is the attacker, this attack confuses me a bit just because it's a very like anti-rich mentality, whereas conservatism tends to uphold billionaires as well. I mean, I guess both parties do, but I would say more so than, leftist ideas that want to promote like social safety nets, like universal healthcare and things like that. But what do I know? He says, while other forms of communication fail, violence is necessary to survive. You may not like his methods, but seeing things from his perspective, it's not terrorism, it's war and revolution. There's a little bit more information on that. I just read that through People, but they skipped some parts, so I'm kind of piecing together this other part. Again, it's not on the Goodreads page, but I'm piecing it together from NBC as well. It also reads, these companies don't care about you or your kids or your grandkids. They have zero qualms about burning down the planet for a buck, so why should we have any qualms about burning them down to survive? His page also says that he wants to read Aesop's Fables, and he has a couple additional quotes that he likes, so I'm just going to read through them all right now. Multiple are from Bertrand Russell. We know very little, and yet it is astonishing that we know so much, and still more astonishing that so little knowledge can give us so much power. It is the preoccupation with possessions more than anything else that prevents us from living freely and nobly. Do not fear the eccentric in opinion, for every opinion now accepted was once eccentric. Of all forms of caution, caution and love is perhaps the most fatal to true happiness. And then the very bottom one is from Dr. Seuss, The Lorax. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. I also believe The Lorax is listed as one of his favorites, but I could be wrong on that. I think I read that one in the articles. He also lists some of his favorites as a biography on Elon Musk's Musk Atomic Habits, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, and I think there's an additional quote that he likes from there. Let me pull that up in an article real quick. Okay, yeah, here's the quote from Sapiens. It's in a Yahoo News article. How many young college graduates have taken demanding jobs in high-powered firms, vowing that they will work hard to earn money that will enable them to retire and pursue their real interests when they're at 35? The Hari quote reads, but by the time they reach that age, they have large mortgages, children to school, houses in the suburbs that necessitate at least 2 cars per family, and a sense that life is not worth living without really good wine and expensive holidays abroad. Other people claim that he likes a quote from the anti-war novel Slaughterhouse-Five, John Stuart Mill's economic textbook Principles of Political Economy, and a quote from Tim Urban, the one I read, Comparing Knowledge to a Tree. Interesting enough too, like we mentioned his like for Elon Musk. Some people. So this article says he also read Harry Potter, but he's also read the autobiography of Steve-O titled "Professional Idiot: A Memoir," and I think he read another Steve-O book. He likes Steve-O's books. The memoir written by incoming Vice President J.D. Vance was also on his reading list. He gave it 3.86 stars. Oh, this is also important to note that in 2022 and 2023, he recorded that he'd read books about pain, specifically back pain, including Becoming a Supple Leopard, The Ultimate Guide to Resolving Pain, Preventing Injury, and Optimizing Athletic Performance, Back Mechanic by Dr. Stuart McGill, and Crooked, Outwitting the Back Pain Industry and Getting on the Road to Recovery. His Twitter banner photo on his account also matches on his account includes an x-ray of his spine showing pins in it. Although it's never said it's his own, it's like implied that he got injured. And also, like, since he was 26, it makes sense because when you're 26 you get kicked off of your parents' insurance. So he might have found himself in a predicament where he struggled to pay for this injury. We don't know. This is just kind of like speculation. They also said that he reviewed George Orwell's 1984, 2 guidebooks for Hawaii, 2 books on computer programming, and then the Lorax as well. He likes the Lorax. So I mentioned him being on Twitter, and I just want to talk about his like Twitter interactions just a little bit so we can really round out his like personality, I guess. According to NBC News, he followed and endorsed some of the most influential thinkers in the new conservative-leaning tech space, including neuroscientist and podcaster Andrew Huberman, author and social media critic Jonathan Haidt, and writer Tim Urban. I apologize if I've mispronounced these names. I have never heard of these people before. I don't really find myself in conservative-leaning tech spaces. So, whoops. His posts focus on what he viewed as failures of modern society, including falling birth rates, which is probably why he likes Elon so much. That's a concern of Elon's as well. The political gender divide and the compulsive use of social media. A gym and wellness enthusiast, Luigi retweeted posts about masculinity and health, as well as the growing role and potential of artificial intelligence in reshaping society. Content he shared linked to declining mental health and procreation to increased reliance on technology. He also shared content that made fun of and criticized inclusive and woke political views. He also was an apparent fan of food writer Michael Pollan, shared content that integrated the consumption of alcohol, psychedelic drugs, and even coffee. He was reading his book, The Omnivore's Dilemma. We already talked about that. He also displayed interest in Japanese culture, posting a list of ideas to increase birth rate in the country that included advocating against some of its cultural institutions. His cover image on X was a composite that included an image of a Pokemon, an X-ray of a spine, and a picture that appeared to be of him hiking shirtless in Hawaii. His location on his Twitter account was set in Honolulu. Also, I saw a reel talking about this where people were talking about the Pokemon in his banner. It was a Breloom, just in case you want to know. And as a huge Pokemon fan myself, I was really interested in this. But the Breloom people were like doing some extra digging into it. And apparently, the Pokedex number for Breloom correlates with a Bible passage that would also kind of support his ideology about taking down these sorts of cruel industrial giants that are like screwing over the everyday people. If I find a picture of that or whatever, I will put that there so you guys know what I'm talking about, so I don't sound like somebody who is just kind of raving about nothing. So yeah, that's his extensive media history. I'm sure you guys wanted to know about that so badly. But I made a video a bit ago about how reading is political and how what you read and what you consume can shape a lot about you and vice versa. For people who are creating books or content like myself, a lot of what we do ends up coming from a place that's very genuine to us, to where it's like hard to separate art from artist. So this was just kind of like another way of me kind of applying that idea in a very relevant real world example. People can develop certain ideologies from their shaped lived experiences. And like I said, it sounds like this person was pretty conservative in general in his whole life. I think I saw something about how his parents are pretty well off and they're conservative leaning too, and they might have like some sort of relational tie to Rush Limbaugh. This is somebody who went to an Ivy League school of University of Pennsylvania, I believe. I will autocorrect myself because it is late at night and I'm very tired. um, but yeah, so this is someone who's really well educated, well connected, and would thrive normally in an environment like this, right? Somebody who still, as a young man, feels disenfranchised by society in a way that I think a lot of Gen Z or young men do these days. And a lot of those men, as we've seen from the election results, tend to lean more right leaning and try to regain these traditional values of when they felt more valuable as a man in a house. I'm being neutral on this because yeah, so that would make sense. And again, if he had this injury, if he had this injury and he had a hard time coping with things and it was exposed to injustices through this newfound pain or disabling incident, of course he would be pissed, right? And I think this could be partially a personal vendetta, or this could also be something where he is inflating his personal experiences with the lived experiences of millions of Americans. I heard a TikTok creator say this, and it's really shaped me and it's stuck with me. And it's like the one thing that we can all guarantee, one, that we're going to die. Woohoo. But one thing that's like pretty much guaranteed for every single person is that eventually we will become disabled in some sort of way. As we age, parts of our bodies will fail. Some of us are born with disabilities, some of us are born with conditions that make life harder for us, and then some of us will develop those over time. But it's almost inevitable that at some point you're going to need life-saving care, right? I think for so long that's been a distant reality. We tend to like put that away because we don't want to admit that, like especially a lot of able-bodied folks don't want to admit that, but it is the truth. So that really emphasizes the need for these structures in place to be able to take care of people when they're sick or take care of people when they're injured and things like that. So maybe this guy got injected with that sort of reality and then just kind of decided, you know what, I'm going to do this thing, and wanted to become some sort of vigilante. I don't know if this is the guy. I'd be interested to see what's in his manifesto personally. I don't think they've released that sort of content yet. They found it on him. In my head, some of this is a little. I just think it's odd for him to get caught at McDonald's with his ID or fake ID, and then just so happen to also have all the incriminating evidence on him at the same time. For me, that makes it seem like he kind of wanted to get caught, and it could be part of this messaging. Maybe he is trying to inspire others to do something similar in his head. If he is trying to be like the Unabomber, I don't think the Unabomber's goal was really to inspire other people, but it seems like maybe this is what this guy's goal is as well. Because he was quoted in or he was liking quotes that were talking about starting war and starting a revolution and things like that. So yeah, interesting how books can help us try to form maybe somewhat of a not full but sort of psychological profile on this guy. I don't know, but I've been definitely paying attention to the story, and I'm interested to see how it goes. It's so interesting, the stark divide between public discord online and like news coverage of the story, and how media a lot of traditional media are still painting it as like a horrible tragedy and saying that this guy is like a madman, whereas people on the internet are thirsting after him. So I don't know, dude. The divide is crazy, and I think this is a really, really, really wild way to bring in 2025. I hope you found this video interesting. I really didn't want to. I just kind of wanted to like give my reaction or like go over this with you guys because again, some of this information isn't on the internet anymore. So it might be interesting to still archive it in some sort of way. Again, it's just interesting to see how what people read kind of give insight into what they're thinking and the actions they might take in the future. I don't know. But I hope you found this video enjoyable at least, or at least sort of entertaining. I plan on doing some more videos that are a little bit more helpful in the future, whereas this one's just kind of like entertaining, I guess. If you like the video, please let me know by liking it down below, liking the video, commenting down below your thoughts about anything I've said, sharing this with a friend, and subscribing to the channel. Please, please, please. That would help me out a lot. And until next time, thanks. Bye.